A housemaid begged one night with a millionaire, he agreed. And their lives changed forever. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The night rain fell like a gray curtain over downtown Chicago, glazing the hotel's marble driveway in reflections of gold and blue. Lena Hart stood beneath the awning, still wearing her faded housemaid uniform, the fabric damp at the sleeves where she had wiped her eyes too many times. She kept telling herself not to cry, not here, not in front of the guests who walked past her without a second glance, but the sting in her chest was too sharp. 30 minutes ago, she had been fired. Not for stealing, not for being late, but because she took the blame for a coworker who would have been deported if the truth came out. She had tried to be kind. And kindness had cost her everything. Her paycheck was gone. Her room at the shared apartment was due in 2 days. Her little sister was waiting for dinner at home, not knowing Lena had nothing left to bring. That was when the black SUV rolled up, sleek, polished, far too expensive for this neighborhood, and the passenger door opened. Ethan Cole stepped out. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, he carried the stillness of a man used to commanding rooms without raising his voice. Lena recognized him instantly, everyone at the hotel did. The millionaire who booked the penthouse whenever he visited the city. The one no staff member dared to bother. But he noticed her. For a second, his eyes flicked across her tear-streaked face before shifting away. He wasn't supposed to care. People like him never had to. Yet Lena felt something crack inside her, a pressure she had been holding in for months. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was simply the last straw. She stepped toward him before she could stop herself. "Sir, please. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't bother you, but I need help." Her voice wavered. She hated that it did. Ethan paused, one hand still on the SUV door. "Help?" Lena swallowed hard, tasting rain. "Just one night. A chance to earn enough to keep my sister and me from losing our place. I can clean, I can iron, I can, anything. Just, please don't walk away." The words tumbled out like someone else was speaking through her. Ethan studied her face, really studied it, as though searching for the part that made her brave enough to beg. Thunder rolled somewhere over Lake Michigan, and the wind tugged at her thin uniform. She didn't look like someone trying to trick him. She looked like someone drowning. Slowly, he closed the SUV door. "One night," he said quietly, the words almost lost to the rain. "If I agree, your life will not look the same tomorrow. Do you understand that?" Lena nodded, though fear trembled beneath her ribs. He exhaled once, a slow, measured breath, then gestured for her to follow. And just like that, the night that would change everything had begun. Rainwater dripped from Lena's sleeves as she hurried after Ethan across the hotel's private entrance, her breath tight in her chest. She kept expecting someone to stop her, to tell her she did not belong in a place reserved for polished shoes and silent carpets, but no one looked at her. Maybe it was because she walked behind Ethan, and a man like him made space appear wherever he moved. He opened the door to a small side lounge, warm with soft lighting and the faint scent of cedar. She hesitated on the threshold, unsure if she should step inside. Ethan turned slightly, his voice calm but firm. "Come in, Lena." Hearing her name surprised her. She had never told him, yet of course he had read her badge 100 times without ever acknowledging it. She took a tentative step, then another, and the door clicked shut behind her. The room was quiet except for the gentle hum of the heating vents. Her mind raced. She wondered if she had made a mistake, if she had just stepped into a world she did not understand. Ethan removed his watch with deliberate movements, setting it on the side table. Not careless, not threatening, just someone preparing to have a serious conversation. Sit, he said, gesturing to the sofa. She obeyed, hands clasped tight in her lap. He took the chair across from her, not too close, giving her a respectful distance. Tell me why you asked for one night, he said. No judgment. Just clarity. Lena swallowed, feeling the sting behind her eyes again. I lost my job tonight. Her throat tightened. And rent is due. I take care of my younger sister. If we lose our place, we have nowhere to go. She looked down, embarrassed by how small her voice sounded. Ethan watched her carefully, his expression unreadable. Why were you fired? She hesitated, then answered honestly. I took the blame for someone else. She made a mistake that would have gotten her in serious trouble. I tried to protect her. For the first time, Ethan's gaze shifted, not cold but contemplative, as if filing that detail somewhere important. You risked your livelihood for someone else's safety, he said quietly. Lena nodded. It felt like the right thing to do. Ethan leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. And you came to me because you believe I can solve your immediate crisis. His tone was not arrogant. It was simply true. I just need a chance to earn enough to keep us from being out on the street, she said softly. I am not asking for anything more than work. Ethan studied her face again, searching for any trace of deceit. He found none. Lena, he said finally, my world is not simple. People assume things. They create stories that are not true. If you choose to step into it, even for one night, the consequences will follow you far longer than you expect. She drew a shaky breath. I understand. Do you? He asked gently. Because I will not allow you to walk into something blind. She lifted her chin. I will do whatever it takes to keep my sister safe. If there is a cost, I will carry it. Ethan exhaled slowly, as if weighing her words, her courage, her desperation. Then he stood, walking toward a sleek black folder resting on the desk. When he turned back, the folder was in his hand. He held it out to her. Then this, he said quietly, is the beginning of your one night. Her pulse fluttered as she reached for it, not knowing that this single gesture would unravel everything she thought she knew. About herself, about him, and about the world that waited beyond that door. Lena held the black folder carefully, afraid the weight of it might crush the fragile hope she was barely holding together. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, half expecting pages filled with impossible demands, but the first sheet was simple. It listed 5 rules, typed in clean, sharp lines, each one more surreal than the last. Ethan watched her without interrupting, giving her space to read, to breathe, to process. His presence was steady, almost grounding, even though everything else in the room felt like it was spinning. Lena looked up slowly. You want me to accompany you to 5 events? Yes, Ethan said. Those events require a certain image. I need someone I can trust to stand beside me. Someone who will not cause chaos. Her cheeks warmed. I am not exactly qualified for that. You are exactly qualified, he replied calmly. Because you have no agenda. And because you do not know how to pretend. The second rule caught her eye. No sharing personal information with the press. She nodded, that one made sense. The third rule made her stomach twist. No accepting money outside the agreed compensation. She met his gaze. I would never ask for more. Most people do, he answered softly. The fourth rule felt strange. I cannot interfere with your business or personal life. She frowned faintly. Why would I do that? You would be surprised what people attempt when they think proximity equals entitlement, he said. His tone was not bitter, but tired, as if he had lived that truth too many times. Then the fifth rule. No, physical expectations. She blinked, reading it twice. Ethan's voice lowered. I want to make one thing clear, Lena. This arrangement is professional. You asked for one night to change your circumstances. I am offering you a structured way to earn what you need with dignity. Relief washed through her so quickly it almost made her dizzy. For a moment, she had feared he misunderstood, that her desperate ask had sounded like something else entirely. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan nodded once. Sign only if you fully agree. She hesitated, the pen cold in her fingers. Why me? She asked quietly. You do not know me. He considered her for a long moment. When you stood in the rain and asked for help, you did not look at me the way most people do. I am used to being seen as an opportunity or a weapon. But you looked at me like I was simply another person who could listen. Lena felt something loosen in her chest, a thread pulled free. She signed her name carefully, each letter steady despite the storm inside her. When she handed the folder back, Ethan closed it with deliberate finality. Your new life begins now, he said. He walked toward the door, pausing just long enough to make sure she followed. As Lena stepped out of the warm lounge and into the cool hallway beside him, she realized she had crossed an invisible line. And whatever waited on the other side was bigger than anything she had ever known. Lena followed Ethan down a quiet service hallway, the hum of distant elevators echoing softly through the walls. Her heart thudded with every step. She had expected him to lead her outside, maybe toward a waiting car or a staff exit, but instead he stopped at a private elevator she had only ever seen from afar, the kind that required a key card no housemaid was allowed to touch. Ethan tapped his card, and the doors opened with a gentle chime. He stepped in first, then nodded for her to enter. The elevator glided upward with barely a sound, and Lena's reflection in the polished steel made her stomach twist. The faded uniform, the smudged mascara, the uncertainty in her eyes. She felt out of place, like a misplaced note in a quiet song. Ethan watched her through the reflection, his voice even. You will not be wearing that tomorrow. She flushed. I know it is not very professional. It is not about professionalism, he said. It is about how people in my world treat those who look unprepared. I will not let them tear you apart because you lack the resources to match their expectations. The words landed heavier than she expected. No one had ever cared how she appeared in front of strangers. The elevator stopped at the penthouse level, and when the doors opened, warm light spilled across the marble floor. The living area was quiet, elegant, almost unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Chicago skyline, glittering like 1,000 scattered stars. Lena froze. I cannot be here, she whispered. I do not fit in. A place like this. Ethan stepped forward, his tone steady but gentle. You do tonight. Tomorrow, you will have help. A stylist. A trainer. People who know how to guide someone into my world without breaking them. She looked at him, surprised. Why invest so much in me? Ethan paused, hands in his pockets, gazed distant for a moment as if searching for the right words. Because if you are going to stand next to me, even for one night, I want you to feel like you belong there. Not like an outsider being tolerated. Lena did not know how to respond, but warmth flickered in her chest, soft and unfamiliar. Ethan walked toward a sleek drawer and retrieved a small velvet box. Her breath caught. This is not what you think, he said quickly, sensing her panic. He opened it to reveal a simple bracelet, delicate but elegant. This is only for tomorrow. It completes the look for the first event. She touched the bracelet gently, afraid it might vanish if she breathed too hard. It is beautiful. It is a tool, Ethan corrected softly. Beauty is a side effect. He handed it to her, and she held it with both hands, as if the fragile metal carried the promise of a life she had never dared to imagine. There is a guest room prepared for you, he said. You can rest there tonight. Everything begins early in the morning. Lena hesitated. You trust me to stay here? If I did not trust you, he replied, you would not be here at all. The sincerity in his voice made her chest tighten unexpectedly. He gestured toward a hallway lined with soft lighting. Lena walked slowly, the bracelet clutched tightly, feeling the weight of the moment settle around her. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, the unknown felt less like a threat and more like a doorway. And she was finally stepping through it. Lena woke to soft morning light spilling across the guest room, warm and gentle against her face. For a moment she forgot where she was, expecting to see the cracked ceiling of her tiny apartment or hear her sister shuffling through the kitchen. But instead she saw high ceilings, pale curtains, and a neatly folded robe placed at the foot of the bed. Her breath caught as the memories of last night returned all at once. The contract. The elevator. The bracelet. Ethan. A timid knock sounded against the door. Miss Hart, a woman's voice called, calm and professional. May I come in? Lena pulled the robe around her and opened the door slightly. A middle-aged woman with warm eyes and a clipboard smiled politely. Good morning. My name is Caroline. Mr. Cole asked me to assist you today. Breakfast is ready, and we will begin with wardrobe fittings. Lena blinked. Wardrobe? For me? Caroline nodded as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Of course. You cannot attend tonight's event without the appropriate attire. Tonight's event. Lena had nearly forgotten rule number 1, 5 events, 5 nights, 5 entirely new worlds she had to step into. She followed Caroline to the dining area, where a small breakfast waited, fruit, oatmeal, a pot of herbal tea. Not extravagant, but thoughtfully prepared. She ate slowly, her hands still trembling slightly. Every bite reminded her that this was real. That she was inside the world she had only ever seen from a distance. Ethan appeared moments later, already dressed in a crisp suit, hair neatly styled, the calm confidence around him almost tangible. Good morning, Lena, he said. His tone was steady, almost formal, but not cold. Did you sleep well? Yes, she said, though she was not entirely sure it was true. Thank you for everything. He nodded once. Today will be overwhelming. But you will have support at every step. He gestured toward Caroline. She has my full trust. You may rely on her. The fitting room was filled with racks of dresses, shoes arranged in neat rows, and jewelry displayed like tiny pieces of moonlight. Lena felt her breath catch. She had never worn anything more expensive than a thrift store dress, yet now she was being asked to choose gowns that looked like they belonged in a magazine spread. Caroline guided her through the options, explaining fabrics, colors, silhouettes. They settled on a deep navy dress, simple but elegant, a design that made Lena feel taller, steadier, almost brave. Mr. Cole chose this palette himself, Caroline added gently. He said it would suit your eyes. Lena's heart fluttered in a way she did not understand and was not ready to examine. The next hours blurred into a soft whirlwind, hair styling, makeup. Practice, etiquette coaching. How to hold a glass. How to introduce herself. How to stand beside Ethan without drawing unwanted attention. By early afternoon, she felt both exhausted and strangely certain she had stepped into a life that did not belong to her. When they finally returned to the living area, Ethan was waiting. He looked at her with a quiet expression she could not read. Not surprise. Not approval. Something softer, something closer to recognition. You look prepared, he said. And I appreciate your effort. The compliment made her chest warm. I am trying, she whispered. Ethan nodded. Trying is more than enough. For the first time since she signed the contract, Lena felt the smallest spark of confidence flicker inside her. Tonight would be her first test, and she did not know what waited beyond those glittering ballroom doors. But she did know one thing. She was no longer facing the unknown alone. Evening settled over the city like a velvet curtain, and the penthouse glowed softly against the fading sky as Lena stepped out from the fitting room in the deep navy dress. She smoothed her palms against the fabric, trying to steady her breath. She had never worn anything so carefully crafted. Each stitch felt like borrowed confidence, and every movement reminded her she was walking into a world that was not built for people like her. Ethan stood near the window, reviewing something on his phone, but when he looked up, the faintest shift crossed his expression. Not surprise. Not admiration. Something quieter, like the recognition of a truth he had expected but still was not prepared to see. "You are ready," he said. His voice carried the calm certainty of someone who had seen countless galas and power rooms, yet it softened just slightly when he spoke to her. "Remember what we practiced. You do not have to draw attention. You simply stand with me." Lena nodded, though her stomach fluttered nervously. "What exactly is this event?" Ethan slipped the phone into his jacket pocket. "A fundraising gala. Investors, philanthropists, several board members. It is not dangerous, but it can be intense." "Intense how?" He considered the question a moment longer than she expected. "People in my world examine everything. How you walk. How you speak. Who you stand beside. Some will be polite. Others will not bother pretending." She swallowed, her voice small. "And I just stand next to you." "You stand with me," he corrected gently. "There is a difference." A soft knock interrupted them. Caroline entered, carrying a small clutch. "Miss Hart, this is yours for the evening. Essentials only. Lipstick, a compact powder, and tissues." Lena took it with both hands, grateful for the guidance. Caroline's warm smile quieted her nerves in a way nothing else had. When they stepped into the private elevator, Ethan stood beside her, not too close, not imposing, but present enough to steady the space between them. The ride down was silent except for the hum of the elevator cables. Lena studied her reflection again, noticing how different she looked under the gentle lights. "You do not have to be perfect," Ethan said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "You simply have to be honest." "Honest?" she asked. "Yes. That is something most people at these events forgot how to be a long time ago." The elevator doors opened into the hotel's grand lobby, transformed with golden banners and soft music drifting through the air. Guests in tailored suits and elegant gowns gathered near the entrance, each step echoing against the polished floor. Lena's heart raced, but Ethan offered his arm, not forcefully, not theatrically, but as if it were natural for her to take it. She hesitated only a moment before resting her hand lightly on his sleeve. The warmth beneath the fabric steadied her pulse. As they walked into the ballroom, conversations softened, eyes turned, and whispers flowed like ripples across a still lake. Lena felt the weight of every glance, every unspoken question. But Ethan kept his posture strong, a quiet shield at her side. A woman with bright jewels and a sharp smile approached them first. "Ethan, you never bring a companion. This must be someone special." Lena felt heat crawl up her neck, but Ethan's calm steadiness did not waver. "She is with me," he said simply. No explanation. No apology. The woman blinked, momentarily disarmed, before forcing a gracious smile. Lena exhaled softly, realizing just how much those 3 words had protected her. As they moved deeper into the room, something shifted inside her. The lights, the murmurs, the elegant chaos, none of it felt as frightening as before. Because every time she faltered, Ethan's quiet presence anchored her, reminding her she was not navigating this world alone. And for the first time tonight, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could belong in this moment, even if only for a little while. The ballroom shimmered beneath chandeliers that cast warm golden halos across the room, but Lena felt a chill trace down her spine the moment she noticed a man watching her from near the bar. His expression was sharp, calculating, the kind of look that did not simply observe but judged. Ethan noticed her subtle tension. "Do not look away suddenly," he murmured softly. Who is he? She whispered without moving her lips. Gregory Hale, Ethan replied, keeping his smile intact as he greeted another guest. A board member. He is known for asking questions that are not truly questions. Gregory approached with a slow, deliberate stride, swirling a drink in his hand as though evaluating her from every angle. Ethan, he said with a smile that never reached his eyes, you have surprised us tonight. You never bring company. I thought you were married only to your portfolio. Ethan maintained his composure. Good evening, Gregory. Gregory's gaze settled on Lena. And you must be. Lena felt the air tighten, her pulse loud in her own ears, but she remembered Ethan's instruction, be honest. Nothing more. Nothing less. Lena, she said. It is very nice to meet you. Gregory's smile tilted, amused and dismissive all at once. Lena. Charming. And where did Ethan find you? The question lingered in the air, coated in implication. Ethan's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but before he could speak, Lena took a quiet breath. We met recently, she answered with gentle steadiness. And I am grateful he invited me to stand with him tonight. The phrasing, subtle as it was, made Gregory blink. It neither revealed too much nor allowed him room to twist her words. Is that so? Gregory said. Well, you certainly do not look like the usual crowd. That is true, Lena replied pleasantly. I am not. Her sincerity disarmed him in a way he did not expect. For a brief moment, he looked almost unsettled. Ethan stepped in smoothly, his voice cool but controlled. Lena is my guest, Gregory. That alone should be enough. Gregory lifted his glass, offering a shallow nod before walking away, though Lena could feel the sting of his stare long after he disappeared into the crowd. Once he was out of earshot, Lena let out a shaky exhale. Ethan leaned slightly toward her. You handled that perfectly. She swallowed. I thought he saw right through me. He saw what he wanted to see, Ethan said. But you did not let him make you feel small. His words settled warm in her chest, steadying her heartbeat. A string quartet began playing near the stage, and waiters carried trays of sparkling drinks through the crowd, but the atmosphere around them felt different now, more focused, more alert. Moments later, another guest approached, offering Ethan a handshake and pulling him briefly into conversation. Lena stood beside him, quiet but composed, listening to the cadence of the room, learning its rhythm. When the guest finally drifted away, Ethan glanced at her with a rare softness in his expression. This is what I meant earlier, he said quietly. People will test you. They want to see if you belong here. Do I? She asked before she could stop herself. Ethan did not look away. You do not belong to this world, he said. But that does not mean you cannot stand in it. In fact, your honesty may be the strongest asset in this room. A warmth spread through her, unexpected and steady. The night was far from over, and Lena knew more tests were coming. But standing beside Ethan, hearing his voice calm and sure, she felt something shift within her. Not confidence exactly, but the beginning of it. The soft promise that she might be more capable than she believed. And as the music swelled, she realized she was no longer shrinking beneath the weight of the room. She was learning how to breathe in it. The night should have settled into something steady after Gregory walked away, but instead the atmosphere shifted, tightening around Lena like an invisible thread. People kept glancing at her, some curious, some amused, and a few unmistakably skeptical. She could feel their eyes tracing every detail of her dress, her posture, her presence beside Ethan. Still, she stood tall, repeating the cues Caroline had taught her and grounding herself in the quiet steadiness Ethan radiated. As the orchestra transitioned into a slower melody, a hostess approached Ethan with a warm smile. They are ready for your speech, Mr. Cole. Ethan nodded, then turned to Lena. You can stay here. I will not be long. His reassurance steadied her more than she expected. He walked toward the stage, steps calm and measured, slipping into the room's spotlight with practiced ease. As he began speaking about the Foundation's new projects and community programs, Lena watched, mesmerized. He looked completely at home under the soft lights, poised and commanding, the kind of presence that could bend a crowded room towards silence without ever raising his voice. For the first time, she understood why people spoke his name with both respect and caution. Yet beneath that polished exterior was the same man who had offered her warmth in the cold, who had spoken gently when she stood soaked and shaking beneath the rain. She felt the distance between their worlds and the strange closeness forming at the same time. When the applause rose and Ethan stepped down from the stage, something changed, subtle, but immediate. A cluster of guests approached him, all eager to shake hands. In the commotion, a woman with sleek blonde hair and a glittering dress slipped beside Lena. Her voice was smooth, almost sympathetic. "You must be the newcomer everyone is whispering about." Lena offered a polite smile. "I am still learning my way around." "Of course," the woman said, her eyes glinting with something sharper. "I imagine it must feel overwhelming. These circles are not easy to break into." Lena recognized the tone, friendly on the surface, but edged like glass. "I am grateful to be here," she replied gently. "I am just trying to do my best." The woman let out a soft laugh, barely audible. "And Ethan, he certainly has an eye for interesting choices." Before Lena could respond, Ethan appeared at her side, his presence shifting the air. "Stephanie," he said calmly. "I see you have met Lena." Stephanie's smile did not waver. "She is lovely, Ethan. So brave of you to bring someone so unpolished into this environment." Lena felt a sting in her chest, but Ethan's voice remained steady. "Lena is exactly where she needs to be." Stephanie's eyebrows lifted in mild surprise, but Ethan had already turned slightly toward Lena. "Walk with me." As they moved away, Lena exhaled slowly. "I think she dislikes me," she whispered. "She dislikes anyone she does not control," Ethan replied. "Do not take her seriously." The honesty in his voice soothed her, but the moment they stepped toward the quieter edge of the ballroom, something unexpected happened. A sudden hush rippled through a small group nearby. A man with a camera phone had turned toward them, angling for a picture. Someone murmured, "Who is she?" Another voice whispered, "New companion." That was fast, even for him. Ethan noticed instantly. His posture shifted, tightening, and his hand hovered near Lena's back, not touching, but ready to shield. "Ignore it," he said softly. "Eyes forward." But Lena could feel the weight of the room pressing in, questions forming, assumptions spreading like threads she could not outrun. The night was no longer just a test. It was a fault line. And one wrong step could change everything. The whispers spread faster than Lena expected, small threads of speculation weaving through the crowd until they formed a quiet pressure she could feel against her skin. Ethan guided her toward a quieter corner near the balcony doors, but even there, the murmurs lingered like static in the air. She clasped her hands together, trying to hide the slight tremble in her fingers. "I did not mean to cause trouble," she said softly. Ethan turned toward her fully, his expression firm but not unkind. "You did nothing wrong." "People are staring," she whispered. "They are assuming things." "They always assume," Ethan replied, his voice low. "That is their talent, not their truth." A waiter passed by, offering drinks, and Lena accepted a glass only because she needed something to anchor her hands. The ballroom doors opened again, letting in a draft that carried the distant hum of the lobby. More guests entered, and with them came a fresh wave of curious glances. She felt exposed, like a spotlight had been placed on her without permission. Ethan saw it instantly. "Look at me," he said quietly. When she lifted her gaze, he continued, "You belong here because I said you do. No rumor changes that." His words steadied her, but only for a moment. Gregory reappeared across the room, speaking with Stephanie, both occasionally glancing their way. A small knot formed in Lena's stomach. "I think they are talking about you," she murmured. Ethan followed her gaze but remained calm. "If they are, it says more about them than it does about us." Us. The word flickered in her chest, warm and unfamiliar. Before she could speak, a staff member approached Ethan with a hesitant expression. "Mr. Cole, the press team is asking if you would like to take photos near the sponsor wall." Ethan exhaled softly, then turned to Lena. "You do not have to stand with me for that. I can go alone." Something in his voice told her he was giving her an escape, a chance to step away from the weight of the room. But Lena surprised even herself when she said, "I am fine. I will stay." Ethan paused, studying her with a hint of admiration. "Very well. Stay close." As they moved toward the sponsor wall, cameras flashed in rapid bursts. Ethan kept his posture poised, answering questions with calm confidence, while Lena stood slightly behind him, just far enough to avoid the direct attention but close enough to stand her ground. A reporter glanced at her with open curiosity. "And who might this be?" Ethan's voice was steady. "She is with me. Nothing more, nothing less. No embellishment. No apology." The reporter nodded and moved on, satisfied. But the simplicity of Ethan's words settled over Lena like a protective cloak. When the photos concluded and the crowd dispersed again, Lena let out a breath she had been holding for far too long. "You did well," Ethan said. "Better than most people with far more experience." "I was terrified," she admitted. "Being terrified is normal," he replied. "Facing it anyway is rare." As the orchestra began its final piece of the night, the ballroom slowly softened into warm conversation and clinking glasses. Ethan offered her his arm again, and this time she accepted without hesitation. For the first time since she stepped into the gala, Lena realized something important. She had not crumbled under the pressure. She had not run. She had stood beside Ethan in a world she had never imagined entering, and she had not disappeared beneath it. Something inside her had changed, quietly, but irrevocably. And as they walked together through the fading golden glow of the ballroom, Lena felt the shift fully. This was no longer just about a contract. This was the beginning of something neither of them had anticipated.